Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're taking a look at the case of Nic Sonderegger, who was also a YouTuber and who lived in Salton Sea in California, which is a place that is abandoned. I believe it used to be a resort town, but the resort got closed, and I believe the lake that it was connected to disappeared, dried up. And currently it's a very interesting place, to say the least. I believe it attracts a lot of people who are artistic or just looking for freedom. It also attracts a lot of people who are into bad things. And Nic lived there with his friend Austin. And in 2018, during one of the nights there, he heard a female screaming and he decided to go investigate. Now, of course, this is in the middle of the night. Austin decided not to go with him. At some point, Austin decided to go to bed, assuming, I guess, that Nic would just come back eventually. But the next morning, he wasn't there, and that's when Austin decided to call the police. They searched the entire area and couldn't find any traces. And the items that were found of his, the clothing and the, I believe is a sheath for a dagger, was found in a location that had already been searched sometime after. So it's almost like somebody decided to come back and dump this stuff somewhere and assumed that nobody was going to find it because it's a very desolate location. Only certain types of people go there. And there's lots of stuff there as it is. If you look up videos about the place, there's lots of abandoned buildings, lots of stuff has been left behind, but people have been there, people who used to live there before. So it's not unusual to find clothing, I suppose, but of course that clothing belonged to Nic and that was recognized as such. Now, there isn't a lot of information about this case at all. Basically, all I've told you is all we really know. He just disappeared. Some people think that there may have been a ruse at hand. Somebody may have tried to lure people to their location in order to rob them or something by having somebody scream and then to wait and see who shows up. That may have been the case. We don't know, though, because we haven't found anything of Nic himself, like no body has ever been found. And that is why we're going to take a look at this case with the tarot. And we're going to start off with the Urban Tarot, which is currently on the table. And for any further questions, moving on to the Muse deck, which is this one. And as usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the cards. As soon as I have about a table full of cards, we're going to stop and take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, so this is actually an interesting start. Of course, I wanted to start at the point where he disappeared, where he heard somebody screaming and went to check it out, but it seems like we're starting sometime before that, maybe even a couple of weeks before that, because I see here, this card here is called the Journalist, and this is the Prince of Wands, which basically makes it the Knight in this deck. And another one is somebody who is fairly quick to act, but in this case perhaps did not act quite well. Or, since it's called a Journalist, this really put to mind that perhaps they were onto something, and whoever they were on to was not appreciating that, and it also made them lose quite a bit of face with somebody, because the Seven of Wands is next. Seven of Wands follows the Six of Wands. Obviously, Six of Wands is normally celebrating a hero or somebody whom you really appreciate or admire. And then the Seven of Wands is more people coming for your position. As you can see, there is a protest going on, trying to protest somebody or something that a whole bunch of people are not interested in anymore or want to see changed. And I think in combination with this, I think this is perhaps Nic either coming across somebody or some type of thing that happened that he did not appreciate, that he wanted to kind of expose possibly, and that made things turn very sour. Now it could be that the person that they were considering or that they were looking into didn't like Nick very much anymore, or it could be that they discovered something about somebody whom they used to trust, I guess, and now saw their true side. In any case, we have a 10 of Pentacles right after that, called Wealth. Perhaps there was an attempt made to perhaps buy silence or something along those lines, but we see the Nine of Wands right next to that, and that is somebody just trudging on and continuing to carry whatever heavy load they've got. It's not quite the Ten of Wands where they're about to dispose of it, like reaching the end goal, but it's more like trudging along, just like the mailman through the snow, because of a purpose or just because of stubbornness or something. So this is looking like perhaps they tried to buy them, buy their silence, perhaps buy their cooperation, agreement, whatever it is. And there was an offer made, and I think the offer was rejected. And like I said, Nine of Wands, it even is called Fortitude. I think they're just pushing forward in their actions, their beliefs, whatever it is that they were doing at the time. And we see here the Mage, which is the Magician in this deck. So perhaps they were thinking, okay, I need to see this through, I need to get this done, what shall I do in order to achieve that? And also kind of like just being a resourceful person, and that may be I guess a problem for whomever it is that they were after. So it kind of seems like they were discovering things and trying to figure out what to do with them, and perhaps the person whom they discovered things on was not appreciative of that fact. Now, it doesn't say who it is. Maybe we'll have some more hints of that later. In any case, on the second row, we have the Hanged Man. It's a little bit difficult to see because these cards are quite long, so we can't get the entire thing on screen in one go. Anyway, so we have the Hanged Man here. So a new perspective. It could be that they are trying to look at things a different way. Could be that they just gained a whole new perspective on people in general, or certain situations that they didn't have before due to this entire situation. We have the Nine of Swords here in reverse. I'm thinking that they did lie awake for some time, or possibly had some anxiety in regards to this whole situation. So it's not something that left him cold. As a matter of fact, the next card that we have here is the Eight of Swords, which is a mental trap of some sort. Now, it is a trap that they could have escaped should they have wanted to do that. If maybe they wanted to stay in it though, because I think that they're just very stubbornly pursuing whatever this is. And let's see, next card that we have here is the Ace of Pentacles, and then we have the Six of Pentacles. All right, so we see him trying something new, and it looks as though there was some success. Now, this success is not a great success. The Six of Pentacles is a bit of a donation thing. It could be that he went out looking for something, tried to spend his own resources and time to get something investigated, done, or whatever, and somebody just came and gave him a little bit of something that he might enjoy, perhaps in the hopes of dissuading them from going any further. It's kind of like, here's a couple of bucks, now go, don't spend them all in one place. That's kind of also what the vibe of this card is, just somebody not really even paying attention to the person who's cleaning their shoes. They're just like throwing a couple of coins over the top of their newspaper and hoping that the person on the other end will just go away, leave them alone, and be satisfied. That type of vibes we're getting over here. So there might have been something else going on previously that may have led to this disappearance. So I feel like at the end of these two rows of cards, we're kind of like at the point where he is about to disappear. Like, this is probably the introduction to the whole story. Now let's see what happens next. Now we have the Muse deck, and let's see what the Muse deck can tell us about Nick's disappearance. Starting off with these two. We have the 10 of discs, or pentacles rather, in reverse, and we have the Page of Cups also in reverse. Okay, so we have a negative surprise and we're losing quite a bit. So perhaps that one thing that they may have gotten led to a loss down the line. Whatever it is that they thought they had gained or won over something now turned out to be a bigger loss. Like, I think this is where they came to the conclusion that they had been fooled by whomever it is that gave them that initial 6 pennies over there in the bottom right. This came as a negative surprise, definitely unexpected, and definitely affected them right in their emotions. It hit deep, I think, because I'm looking at the Page of Emotions again, and I see there is a octopus sort of thing going on down here, and then there's this lights from underneath the octopus that appears to be almost like a entrance to a circus or something, but it's kind of like this thing that's hidden deep down has been affected, so probably some type of core value perhaps got attacked by this revelation, this action by this other person perhaps. In any case, they were hit deep in their emotions. Now let's see what else we can find aside from the loss of resources here, because the 10 of Pentacles of course is more about resources like time, money, things that you own, objects, stuff like that. But the Cups of course are more about the emotional effect. Then we have a couple more cards here. The Muse of Materials. Okay, so this is the Pentacles again. I think this is the King of Pentacles in this deck. There's no kings in this deck. Oh, we have 2 muses. Look, we have the Muse of Materials and the Muse of Emotion. So we have 2 kings, or in this deck it's called muses, so that's kind of like a very important energy. And one is Pentacles and the other is Cups. All right, so we're really looking at some really deep seated issues here that are hitting both emotions and resources, like almost archetypical level stuff here. So this looks like they were perhaps robbed of both some wealth and some type of emotional stability. I almost want to say some type of innocence was taken. Like, if you're somebody who believes that people are in general good, like there's always something good about a person, and something happens that just kind of just disproves that completely, that there are actually people out there who are willing to do really terrible things like you wouldn't even imagine. That's kind of like the situation that we're looking at here, while also being robbed. So I'm thinking at this point there could be situation here where he goes out to investigate this scream, if that happened, and then he encounters people that are really bad and have like nothing positive in mind. And just the way that it hit him so deep, I almost want to say that this probably wasn't somebody who was a stranger, because with strangers you're often a little bit more cautious. Like, you don't know them, you don't know what they're like, you don't know how they normally react or to things or whatever. And if they do something to you that you don't like, you're just, oh well, that guy's a bit of a bad person. You can put all words that you like in there, but I can't do that with YouTube, but you know how that goes. In any case, so that type of situation wouldn't leave you that deeply affected. I think this is more on the lines of betrayal, possibly, like somebody whom they probably considered to be close and really ended up stabbing them in the back. Let's see what else we can find about that. Also, interesting choice of words here, of course, because I believe they did find a sheath of his blade, but not the blade itself. I don't know if that blade that used to be in that sheath was ever recovered, or if that never left the residence. No, yeah. Either way, we've got a few more cards over here. Quite a few, actually. We have Knight of Cups. All right, somebody's only focused on their own emotions here. We have the 7 of Pentacles, trying to figure out what's actually going to bloom or mature of the things that you've planted, possibly reviewing what you've planted. We have the Wheel here. Things are changing. And another Muse. This is the Muse of Wands. So this is kind of the King of Wands. So now we're taking action. Let's put them down first. after I've looked at them, or at least discussed it a little bit more. So we have a situation here where they feel pretty much betrayed. And next we see a cup card, the Knight of Cups, and the Seven of Pentacles. And I feel like this is not Nick who we're looking at. I think we're now looking at a different person. This could possibly be the perpetrator, focusing mostly on themselves at this point, and also kind of looking at possibly what they could have lost. Like they're still watering, or possibly considering watering, the things that they've tried to grow, but they might not all mature. It's kind of like looking at the things that could have been but probably aren't ever going to be. Like if this really was somebody who was close to Nick, then it would probably be more along the lines of, well, we could have been such good friends and we could have done this together, we could have traveled there together. But that's not going to happen, and look how that's affecting me personally, because the Knight of Cups is very much focused on themselves. Very selfish mood for a person to be in, just focusing on themselves, not really looking about the rest of the world or how it affects other people. I'm going to put this one over here because that's usually how they are turned. And we have the wheel, speaking of turning, so things are definitely changing. So I think this is also a good match for those two cards in the top right there. Like they're looking at how things could have been, but now they're realizing that those things are not going to come to fruition ever again because the wheel has turned, and now we're looking at a different future than we were expecting initially. And now we have here the Muse of Inspiration, or the King of Wands, and that means we're taking action. So now we are spurred into action. There's a lot of fire in this card as well. Like there's things that need to happen right away, and they're gonna take care of that right now. Okay, so Muse deck is currently silent. I think I'm gonna go back to the Urban Tarot deck for now, because I think this is the end of that situation, and we're not going to get anything after that. So after that we have a bit of silence here, but let's go back to the Urban Tarot deck and ask if we're ever going to find anything of Nick, if we're ever going to find Nick himself and figure out what happened to him, if we're ever going to see anybody be brought to justice, that type of thing. Okay, we have two cards. This one fell first. The Fool. Alright, so we're wandering off of the edge of a building. Usually it's a cliff when the Fool goes and does whatever. We also have here the Day Trader, which is in reverse. So we're looking at somebody who is not very careful with their spending, because the Prince of Discs in this case is the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. Knight of Pentacles is normally very slow and steady, wins the race, very much for planning things. These are the type of people that have a pension plan long before they're even in their 30s. That type of person is usually a Knight of Pentacles type of energy, but in this case it's in reverse, so I feel like they don't really have that as part of their strategy right now, and they're combined with the Fool, just kind of happy-go-lucky. Maybe not so much happy or lucky, but more like we're just going to go through life and do whatever we feel like, and we'll see where life takes us. And they're not too careful with their spending. They don't really care about building up any type of pension plan in that sense. They may feel like they're never going to use a pension plan anyway, like somebody who is out there and figures that they won't ever get old, so they might as well enjoy themselves while they're still here. That type of energy. Then we have here the Ten of Swords. It's called Ruin. It's in reverse. Ten of Swords is normally a very bleak card, but also a very dramatic card, and in this case it appears to be a bunch of swords. What are they stabbing exactly? I can't really tell, but there's almost like a green flame substance coming out of it. Yeah, it's very dramatic, but I'm not really sure what's happening, and possibly the person themselves don't really know that either. I feel like they may be running from something, like there may be something that's poisoned their mind. Yeah, that's probably something that's happening here. It's very insubstantial, but it's like whatever happens to them is still on their mind, and it's really ruined whatever, I guess, clear thinking they may have had at some point. In any case, they're still thinking about this. This will be the perpetrator, and they're unable to let it go. Now, normally the reverse, I would say, is like the opposite of the upright version, but it can also be that this has really metastasized in their mind. Like they're still thinking daily, if not nightly, of what happened to Nick. That one, okay. The Eight of Pentacles. All right, so we are very careful in some ways. At least we're pretty good at what we focus on. It's called prudence. So I'm thinking that this is more like, I see a bunch of watches there as well. They're very careful in certain ways. They're very particular because watchmakers have to be very exact about everything that they do. So I feel like this carelessness over there on the left is paired with, there are certain things I cannot mess up on, like possibly they're very careful how to spend their time with people. They might be very careful with their background story, things that they tell them, stuff like that. This type of stuff that they may be carrying on them. Like this might be somebody who avoids wearing certain articles of clothing because it might make people think about what they may have done in the past. I don't know, like I'm thinking to the point of if they were ever to get a splatter of red paint on their shirt or something like that, they would want to immediately get rid of it because that might make people think of Nick and how he died, and possibly that this person may be responsible because look at the red spots on his clothes, like that might be blood, that type of thing. Like, not that it's like a logical thing to think, because as you can see here, they're not quite logical right now. Their mind is kind of twisted. So I think in certain ways they are very much focused on things that other people probably wouldn't look at. That might also be drawing attention because I have this idea right now that they're very unusual, quite eccentric maybe. In any case, somebody who stands out, and perhaps stands out even more because of this Eight of Pentacles behavior. And they may have some issues with perhaps substance abuse, because we have the Devil here. And in this case, it's quite literally somebody who, I think this is maybe a dealer, or maybe somebody who is incarcerated perhaps. And they have quite a lot of control over them as well. If you look in the background, I hadn't actually looked at that before. You can see a whole bunch of people there like drawn on the walls, and they're all around him. And they look like they may be in pain or agony, or they may be, I don't know, cheering, trying to reach out to people perhaps, but they're all kind of around this character here, who even has some horns drawn above his head and seems pretty comfortable and in control in the situation. So they're definitely, this person being controlled by something, possibly substance abuse. It could also just be that their whole obsession here is controlling their life, and it could be a combination of both. Like perhaps their twisted mind and obsessions have led to substance abuse to try and numb certain things out. So we might be looking at somebody who's very hedonistic, nihilistic, something along those lines. Now, are we ever going to figure out who this is? Are they going to get caught? Oops. Okay, there's quite a few cards right there. This is a whole stack. I'll separate those in a moment or shuffle them. But we do also have this one. This one fell by itself. Four of Wands, completion. Okay, so normally the Four of Wands is like a celebration almost. like a family gathering type of thing for people under an arch full of flowers and that type of thing. I'm getting the impression that this is more of a full circle thing, because also the card is called completion, so it could be that we're coming full circle. It could be that whatever they did to Nick will eventually be done to them, possibly also by somebody whom they trusted. So it's like what comes around goes around, that type of thing. Let's see which cards we need from this little pile that we got, because okay, these guys, a lot. The second time actually that happened during this reading. We had quite a few cards pop out right away at the start as well. Okay, so I'm guessing these are all going to be the last cards that we're going to get for this reading. There's a whole stack here. Let's see, we have the Three of Pentacles in reverse. Somebody's going to work against them. That's probably how we're going to end up with the full circle situation. Somebody whom they trusted, that they used to work with, perhaps is going to perhaps rat them out, or find out something about them and then try to get their benefit out of it somehow. We have here the Prince of Cups, which is the Knight of Cups in reverse. The filmmaker, somebody who orchestrates these things. I'm thinking also, because the devil over here kind of maybe looks like somebody who's incarcerated, that perhaps the perpetrator is already in a jail type setting or prison, and this person that they may have tried to work with or had worked with in the past, who's now going to turn them, could be somebody who is trying to snitch on people to get their own sentence reduced. That's kind of what this is looking like. Then we have here the Princess of Discs. That's the Page of Pentacles in reverse. So they definitely didn't spend their time wisely. Could be that they slipped up, even though they're so careful over there with the Eight of Pentacles. They slipped up on one little thing, and that immediately ruined things for them. We have here Strength, though, and the Matriarch. Okay, so they may be trying to deal with this. They have some type of mental strength that's kind of helping them through it, but also we see here the Queen of Pentacles, somebody whom is fairly resourceful. I think maybe they're trying to pay off whomever this snitch might be, so that they can get some type of out, I guess, after this. Somebody who may also be related to them, who is still on their side, regardless of whatever reason they're currently incarcerated for, still trying to help them out against everything, or perhaps against better judgment. But we're not exactly happy about this, because we have the Nine of Cups in reverse, so they are still deeply unhappy, deeply affected by it. It kind of looks like an empty picnic ground. Normally the Nine of Cups would be like this happy scenario, a whole bunch of friends coming together, having a picnic, just enjoying themselves, enjoying each other's company, but it's off in a distance. And in this case, he feels like all that is something that he can only witness from afar. And then I'm getting this vision of somebody sitting watching TV, seeing people having a great life, and they themselves look at their own surroundings and go, well, I guess that's for other people, because it's certainly not happening here, that type of thing. We have the Eight of Cups, unable to walk away. This is called indolence. Also a fairly messy environment. Like, this is a desk full of stuff. This is kind of the desk you would find with somebody who spends all of their time behind a computer, possibly for work or possibly just because they had got nothing better to do. You see all kinds of toys there, notes, things that they've drank. They have a stack, again, a stack of cups here, a stack of cups here as well. And it doesn't look like a very good situation, even though it looks as though they have a lot. They don't really have a lot of anything. They have mostly junk and not much to look forward to. So that's also a factor. Then we have here, I believe this is the World in reverse. In this deck, it's called the Aeon. And I think they're being confronted with themselves. And then over here we have, oh, this is the World and this is Judgment. Okay, fine. We still have the World, but it's on the other side. In any case, so this is Judgment, judging themselves. Just like I said, they're looking at the reflection of themselves, and the world is against them. So I think that they're very much depressed, I want to say. And they may also just be kind of in a very hopeless spot. So I'm thinking just looking at these cards that we got now in the final stack, that somebody has found them out in whatever situation that they're currently in, has snitched on them, and is now causing them to be stuck, I guess, in their situation for the unforeseeable future, like an indefinite situation that they're in, even though they've been kind of helped out of super hot water by whomever this is. But they're not in a great spot. Like, it's like postponing an execution type of situation right here. All they have to go on is their inner strength. So it seems to me like they're already incarcerated for something else. If not physically inside of an actual prison, then just in their own mind. And while they will come pretty close to being stabbed in the back and almost coming full circle here, they're not going to come away unscathed either. It doesn't say that we're ever going to learn the actual identity of the perpetrator. It does look like the perpetrator is in a hell of their own creation. So in a way, we've come full circle here with the Four of Wands, but we might not actually get an answer publicly in the long run. So that's what I'm seeing for Nic's case. I hope you found that interesting. Make sure to leave a comment and a like. That really helps the channel along. I'd also love it if you would like to subscribe. And if you have a case which is public, which you would like me to take a look at, make sure to put that in the anonymous Google form, which is linked in the description. In any case, I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.